Welcome back to Revelatorium, episode 28, part 2. I'm not going to do a full intro spiel at the top. I'm just going to launch us back into where we left off, which is what I'm leaving. First thing I'm leaving is thinking I'm ugly. I was having the kind of beautiful heart-to-heart you can only have when you step away from the party to smoke outside in the rain with a few chosen individuals. And I was just sort of sharing. It was like I was with 3 guys, albeit 3 gay guys, so I know the world has also made them feel ugly, especially growing up, in some ways in which, you know, the queer man does not conform to heterosexual beauty standards, but they are all like men. They did not grow up as girls. And I was sort of just like sharing like what it really truly does feel like to grow up being so gendered by the world and being so encouraged to understand yourself as ugly. Like, I don't know when I started accepting, like, I don't even know where I got the idea that I was ugly. Like, I can't tell you like one core memory where I was like, and that was when I felt, like, I definitely felt at summer camps growing up when I was in like elementary school that I was not the cutest kid that the counselors loved. Like, I knew that, but I was also just like a little taller and like whatever. So I was just like not cute and small. Like, I wasn't cute and small. I was something else. And I think desirability politics can also influence your understanding of your own beauty or like attractiveness. But I'm like, is beauty the same as attractiveness? Like, if you're not attracting people, does that mean you're not beautiful? I don't think the answer is no. But in any case, like, whether or not I, in a vacuum, thought I was actually ugly or not, I just knew that like it was a pretty safe position, or I thought it was a safe position to think that I was ugly. Obviously, because the world is literally profiting off of you thinking you're ugly because your lips are too thin, or your skin's not clear enough, or your eyebrows are too far apart, or you need this hair color, or you need this hair type, or whatever. And it's very commercially viable for you to have insecurities, basically, like physical insecurities. So, like, I have politically known the underpinnings of like my ugliness, but I think I didn't understand. Unfortunately, like, I'm coming to leave this behind because of other people's opinions of me, like, actually. And like, I don't want to find approval or validation or like acceptance through like other people, like 100% through like other people. But like, sometimes we heal in community, right? And I wasn't going to get all the way in tackling this alone. And I was talking to the guys about like this stand-up bit that I was doing where I was like, I'm either the prettiest girl to ever be ugly or the ugliest girl to ever be pretty. And audiences just like never like fucked with that. Like, they didn't think it was funny, or they didn't think it was compelling, or they didn't think it was true. And in one case, my comedian friend pointed out, well, maybe they can tell that like you don't believe that. And like, maybe you're not like selling it, you know? Like, maybe you're just not delivering it with enough conviction. And I think it's true. Like, I think I'd rather not think of myself as ugly, right? Right. And also one time I did that joke and someone in the front row was like, I don't think you've ever been ugly for a second in your life. And that like literally like, you know how some people have like something a bully said to them and it's like a formative memory? Like, I think this is going to be like a genuinely formative memory. And that's why I'm so glad that I have the outlet of stand-up comedy. Like, what a fucked up, crazy thing to do. But also, I've learned so much in that forum. And that girl telling me that, I was like, if you believe that I have never been ugly, why should I? Like, why the fuck would I, as the one that's here in this form all the time, why would I want to be believed? Like, if someone else is going to believe that, I have every right to believe that too. Like it basically showed me a way that I can think about myself, where I was like, oh, that's one way you could think about me. Why don't I take that up too? Like, why am I going around publicly saying that I'm ugly? Why would I even offer that up to other people as an idea? Like, hey guys, just, have you guys ever thought that I might be ugly? Like, no, I'm not going to give other people that opportunity. But I was for so long. And now I'm like, no, I'm kind of done. And that doesn't mean that I'm done feeling insecure, but I'm done just like at a default thinking that I'm ugly. Like that is like, and that being a safe thing for me to feel, or a conservative thing for me to feel, or like me thinking that I referring to myself as ugly is going to gain me any points or get me any favors with the people around me. Like, no. So that's been very freeing. Does that mean I want to take selfies all of the time? No. But I don't want to like ultimately in the big picture consider myself ugly. Maybe there's like microscopic moments of the day where that's still coming up for me. Like you can't control your thoughts, whatever. But like, I don't want to let those thoughts amount to. And that means that like overall, you're unattractive. Because I just know that I'm not. Boom. Okay. I'm also leaving putting people above me. And I would like to leave, although I can't control this, other people putting me above them. What I mean by this is fuck the politics of someone being out of your league, someone being a celebrity to you, someone being famous to you, someone being clouded to you. I watched Notting Hill because I'm a devout Julia Roberts fan. She is one of my style and gender inspirations. I think she is so beautiful and so wonderful to look at. And Hugh Grant, that is opposite her in that movie, equally as gorgeous. I was like, this is just like, I'm so glad these people are actors because they are truly so pretty to look at. Like the screen tests passed with flying colors. Like they look amazing. I was just loving looking at them. I was less loving how putrid fame appeared in that movie. Like that movie did such a good job of like really putting me off to like the existence of fame. Like, cause the movie's basically about Julia Roberts being in the movie, a famous movie star, you know? And then Hugh Grant is just like a lowly, it's always a fucking bookshop keeper. Why do we love that so much? We love a man who is literate, you know? They're like, this man is literate, sexy. And we're like, totally. Doesn't take much. He's just like a bookshop keeper. And they meet and they have this little love affair. And a lot of the movie just really covers, like, although it's mainly from his perspective, the way that she is treated because of her fame. And he doesn't outright let her know that he knows who she is when she comes in, but it's kind of understood that she is at like a Beyonce level of fame, that like everyone would just recognize her kind of thing. And he does fumble around her. And I can't tell if he's just the kind of guy who would be like bumbling no matter what attractive woman, you know, anyone that he would have a crush on is in there. Or if it was specifically because of her position as a famed actress and he's like not at all famous. But I just found the dynamic to be so off-putting. And then like, spoilers, but like basically she meets his family and most of them treat her like she's from another planet, like she's just an alien, like, and I get it. Because it is exciting, right? To meet someone who you never thought you would be in the same room as. That is exciting. Not denying that whatsoever. However, I don't think that it's fair to treat her like she's better than you. And I wonder how much control we even have. Like, how much control do we have over the feeling of being starstruck? Because, and that's one question I asked you guys is like, have you ever met someone famous? How did they treat you? How did other people treat them? Like, I want to understand. And Oh my God, so many good answers. I literally cannot wait. We're so close to getting into those. But it's like, how, like, can you dissolve that starstruck quality? Because to me, like, the only way you can feel starstruck, and this is going back to my motif of celestial happenings, the only way to erase being starstruck is to not view that person as a star, right? But we have really created this funnel pointing us all towards Hollywood Walk of Fame. You literally get a star. These people are stars. They are celebrities. And here's what I'll say is, like, Julia Roberts, she is definitely a star. Like, she definitely has a quality of charisma to her that is a star quality. And like, I can recognize that in people in my own life that aren't famous, is that they are a star. Like, they're special. Like, they are a star. They have a star quality about them. It's tough to say, but it's like, if someone is a star, obviously you're going to feel an affinity towards them, probably. And you're going to want to, be around them, probably. If you admire their work or you find their personality charming or whatever. But I don't think that means that we should be groveling for that person's attention or like exalting them to some pedestaled position that really makes you inferior to them. Because I went to another unnamed tour of a comedian, and somebody in the audience, there was a Q&A portion, and there were a couple amazing, thoughtful questions. And then there was one person who took the opportunity to be on that mic and to be one of the 400, 500, 1,000 people that got to ask a question. And they took it to basically ask if the comedian liked her shirt. And I guess probably was like some custom shirt that she had made or something to refer to, like, I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, I was actually so like, sort of like affirmed by seeing the comedian not like reward that behavior, but instead just kind of do the same, like just be like, really? That's your question? Like, you just want my approval? There's nothing that you're curious about. There's nothing that, that you think the audience might also want. Like, I was just like, first of all, it felt self-serving, right? It was like, I could take this opportunity to ask something that maybe everyone else could also be interested in. Or like, I always resented in class when like someone would ask a question to the teacher that was like so specific about their unique set of circumstances. And it was like, dude, just ask after class. Like, we don't all need to hear about every nook and cranny of your life. I know you know what I'm talking about. Where it was just like, dude, you're just asking this so that you want the teacher to approve of you, basically. And I get it. I'm searching for approval too. I just told you guys about the fucking getting approval that I'm not ugly. I'm like, okay, just got approved. I don't have to think I'm ugly anymore. I'm on here in some ways for approval, of course. This is like a bid. Any type of like posting online is a bid for connection. It's a bid for approval. It's a bid for acceptance. It's like so naked in my world now. Like, and so in some ways I'm just kind of like, I at this point just own it. I'm like, okay, I'm not shying away from the fact that like me putting this out means that like I'm seeking connection. It's like, there is some part of me that, despite me talking about all of these things with my friends, feels the need to like share them wider and to like generate more conversations and more discussions around this. And I think these things are important and like worth talking about, clearly. So anyway, I get that person wanted approval, but I just thought that was the wrong format for it. And it was a little selfish in my mind in a light way. And I thought it was hilarious that the comedian like literally like kind of slapped her on the hand for that and was like, don't do that to me. Like, don't do that parasocial shit with me. Like, I want to actually like, get to know what you guys want to know. And if it's this is just, do you like me? That's why I love comedians, because they do feel more emboldened to just be like truth tellers in a lot of ways. And that's why it's extra disappointing when they just like sell out, because, you know, I want more comedians like Kathy Griffin. Like early 2000s, she was ripping into everybody. She was telling the untold stories of Hollywood of like, this is what's going on, you guys. Let me tell you in town crier fashion. So anyway, I feel this very like interesting like point. You know those little things where it's like a little stick and then you have to bounce another stick on the stick? That's kind of how I feel about fame, is like Rain Fisher Kwan recently did this interview with Tavi Gevinson. And if you know who both those people are, A+, amazing taste. And if you don't, it's probably just because your screen time is in a healthier range than mine. But they were talking about the position of the fan, the subject, and the critic. So like the fan being this person at the comedy show, right? It's like they're there, they love consuming this person's contributions, or cheering that person on, they're eating everything up. They're just like, I love you. I follow everything you do. I love you. That's like a fan at the top extent. And these are my interpretations of the term. They may or may not closely align with how Rain or Tavi presented them, but subject is the comedian. Subject is the person that is being noticed, that is being fanned, the person that is being analyzed, understood, witnessed, etc. And then the critic is the person that's interpreting and analyzing the relationship between that fan and that subject, or analyzing the way that that subject is influencing culture, or the critic is parlaying how the fans are behaving. Like the critic is there to analyze, right? And they were talking about the nexus of all three of those. She made this amazing little like Venn diagram with 3 circles, but the nexus of all 3 of those is the girl blogger. It is a Rain Fisher Kwan. It is a Tavi Gevinson. It is potentially, and I identify with this too, me. Like I feel like I'm seeing in triple vision these forces play out, where it's like in this podcast, like you hear me be a fan of Haim, of Honey Pluton, of different artists. And in this very episode, you've heard me also criticize like the performance and criticize the way they went about things, or criticize fan behavior. And then also by having this outlet, I become a subject. Like I'm putting my opinions out there for public reception. And so I have become a subject. And being a subject gives you a different relationship with fame than being a fan does, than being a critic does. But when you have all 3 of those, it's sort of like I feel like I can kind of see through the traps of them all. And I have like an empathy for all those positions, where I feel like most people don't have empathy for the position of fame. And obviously they have a hard time with that, because fame typically means wealth and untold access and fortune, right? And so it feels like that person has now escaped the realm of like personhood, and they're at a different echelon that like you can't relate to anymore. Like relatability has escaped. But in some ways that's also because we treat people like they're celebrities, like they're above us, and we don't act like their opinion of us is as important as the next person. That girl at the show wasn't asking the rest of the people in her row, I'm assuming, this is just me assuming, I'm assuming she didn't ask a rando person in the lobby, what do you think of my shirt? Because she didn't care about other people's opinions like she cared about the famous person's opinion. Like you care about the person's opinion who you've put at a pedestal above you. And I'm like, I genuinely don't feel like famous people should be treated like they're better than you, or that they're more valuable than you. But yeah, basically because I hold the roles of fan, subject, and critic, I can see all three of those positions and how all three of those roles are relating to each other. And I see this sort of like misconceptions or like the fraught things within that. And I don't understand why we have to treat, like, now that I've been a subject and I've come to know other subjects, right? I'm like, these people are awesome. I love my internet friends. I love my friends that would be considered, I don't know, micro celebrities, right? There's some semblance of fame there. There's on the gradient of fame, it's a little colored in, right? It's like they're recognized. Whether or not they're actually famous, people treat them like they're famous if they're a fan. But I can say the best fan-subject interactions are when they don't treat you like you're famous because they know you're just a regular ass person. That like you're not better than them somehow just because you've been a public figure. And I think it's sick and twisted that somebody that is a subject would want to be treated like they're better than you. I don't agree with that. And I respected that comedian because I could tell that, you know, he likes the clout, he likes the attention, of course. Why the fuck else would you do this? But he wasn't wanting to be treated like he's some sort of king and you want him to knight you, you know? But yeah, I feel like most people don't struggle with empathy for the position of the subject. And a lot of people see, and maybe these cultural understandings are changing, but a lot of people see fame as a painless experience or one to be sought after. But when people that are subjects are talking about their subjecthood, I'm listening. And one channel I've found for that is the newest Haim single at the time of recording, which is Everybody's Trying to Figure Me Out. Everybody's trying to figure me out. My top's down and I'm losing ground. Oh my God, I feel like I might live inside of everyone's thoughts. I wish I could slow the tape down to the point where everything stops. Everybody's trying to figure me out now, and I don't know why. There are things I've done I can't deny. They might have saved my life. Everybody's got their own decisions, and I know that I've got mine. And my interpretation of this single is resentment against the surveillance of a subject and how you're scrutinized, how you receive public scrutiny, whether you want it or not. And my friend was like, isn't it about a relationship? Like, isn't it about a breakup? And I'm like, well, yes, it's about the scrutiny of the fan on the state of the subject's relationship. Like, that's my makeup of it. And I think anyone that's experienced a moment of virality, it does feel like everyone's trying to figure you out. I had almost every single time I've gone viral, it's been troubling. It's broken out of containment to a place that I never foresaw or wanted. And then I receive I've definitely received people sleuthing. And I'm like, I know I definitely wanted reception for my ideas, but like I didn't necessarily want people to interrogate my life. And that's why like I was just watching my own Instagram reels, many of which are basically little vlogs of like trips, vacations, amazing weekends that I've had. And my friends are featured in those in a way that like I kind of like phased out featuring my relationships in anything I post publicly because I didn't want scrutiny on those. They're so sacred to me. And I'm like, those people barely, like, I was reading this essay that Eliza McLamb put out, and she was talking about how, I wish I had the exact quote. But she was just, basically talking about the tension of her relationships and people kind of knowing that she's mining her life for her art, and that like they'll like their interactions with her like might end up influencing something, and how much they consent to that or not. And I just don't want to introduce my friends to being subjects, you know? Like if they haven't raised their hand for that, if they're already a subject, then I don't feel like I am the one that has the responsibility with that. But if they're not, I'm like, I don't want you to experience this. But I do miss featuring my relationships, and I'm like, I kind of want to make like a little vlog for my Alaska trip, but I'm like, I'm just reformatting my politics about that basically. So yeah, I did kind of read that Haim single as an anthem for the subject, is how I read it. And it's like, that's like an anthem that not many people are going to be able to like relate to, right? But when you put that with the imagery they have for the singles, which are like recreations of paparazzi photos, like I was talking about in, I guess, part 1 of this episode, it's like totally like paparazzi photos are surveillance of the subject and like are such a breach of a feeling of being free. Like you're just always potentially going to be lambasted. And I just watched a video of Justin Bieber being like, all you guys want is money. Like there's a bunch of paparazzi trying to take photos of him, and he's like, all you guys want is money. Like you just want money, money, money. Like, and it's like, yeah, like, I don't know. It would be interesting I wonder if there is sort of like a mini doc on the life of a paparazzi photographer, because I'm like, how much money are they making? Like, are they making a handsome amount, or are they living paycheck to paycheck? Because it's like fucked up that like we've created a commodity out of the subject, and that Justin Bieber, like his image, you know, can be sold, and that it's someone's job now to like just stalk him basically. And that, you know, it's like, can we, if we're going to have wage labor, can we have it be for things that aren't that like intrusive? Like our economy is so fucked up that you can make money off stuff like that. It's like disgusting. It's disgusting. And I'm not like saying that, like, just the position of it is disgusting. Like let's get rid of that structure so that people don't even have to think about whether or not they want to take a job as a paparazzi person. But I'm just like, it's just a foul way to relate to each other. And that's why I hate that so many people feel that they need to become a subject in order to make a living. Like we're seeing a world in which like my piercer has to be on TikTok to get clients. Like his videos do well on TikTok and he's seeing 5 to 8 people a day walk in off of that. But I'm like, he shouldn't have to be a piercer and a fucking content creator. That's 2 jobs. Is it not enough? Like, shouldn't it be enough to be a piercer at a piercing studio and get clients? Like, isn't that the whole point? Like 30 years ago, they did not have to do this. It's like, now everyone's just working more basically. And like, not only you're working more, but you're like selling your life more. You're commodity. It's just like you're becoming a commodity. It's just like, so I'm like, people just should not have to do this. You basically have to like expose yourself to the fame ecosystem to make a living as any sort of like self-employed independent person. Because I'll say of my 3 positions, of my fan, subject, and critic, well, it's actually like I do kind of enjoy all 3 of those positions for different reasons. But I guess I'm having the most complicated feelings right now over being the subject, because it just does feel like it's kind of like irreversible now what I've done. Like now that I have the 100K YouTube plaque, no matter how much I could try to conceal that, I am a subject and like keep that part of my identity like closeted to like the people that I meet, because I don't want people to treat me like a subject. Like I just don't want to be treated like that. And it's like a very common occurrence that like when I meet someone new, someone else in that space will be like, oh, and she's famous. And I'm like, I feel like that, first of all, is misleading because it's like, okay, what does that even mean? I guess it would be more I would really prefer I literally would prefer for them to be like, yeah, she's a subject. She is a subject. And I guess once someone understands that I am a subject, if they're a fan and they're used to treating subjects like celebrities, like they're above them, if they're used to being in a sub role of like fan, then that dynamic is like corrupted. And it's like, I can't get to know you. And that's why I really do enjoy, I'm like trying to think of spaces that like kind of disrupt that dynamic. And I feel like that's why I'm really proud of what I've created with the Patreon book club, is that I don't feel like I am there as a subject with my fans. It feels like we're all there to be learners together. Like that's the primary, like we're here to learn and to discuss. Like we're here to all teach each other, and we're here to all learn from each other. And like that sort of collective, non-hierarchical thing is what we're trying to get at. And I know it's so impossible to like have zero hierarchy, but it's like, it's a noble cause to at least try to flatten it if you can. Because I don't like the hierarchy of someone treating me like I'm better than them. And it's hard for me to tell if that's because they're treating me like a subject, or I guess, yeah, I think earlier I was talking about treating someone like they're out of your league. It's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to treat someone like they're out of my league, because that's making them a subject, kind of. Like it's making me of less worth. But I'm like, nobody is better than me, and I am not better than anyone. Like from a worth standpoint, one of my spiritual beliefs is that we all have inherent worth and dignity. So I just don't, I clearly have like a disgust for the role of the subject and the role of the fan. The critic, I don't appreciate when they're armchair experts. That bothers me. So I have, complicated feelings about all three of them. But ultimately, I'm just wondering how I can stop treating people, like I can stop putting people on a pedestal. I can stop dehumanizing them that way. I can stop treating them like they're better than me, and just meet them where they're at, meet them like we're peers. Because one thing that being a subject has given me is I'm like, I can, like, getting back to like, okay, yes, I'm friends with other subjects, is I'm like, these people like are not better than my friends who aren't subjects. You know what I'm saying? It's like that position of them being like slightly famous, whatever way, doesn't make them just like a better being than like my other friends who aren't subjects. So it's doing someone a disservice to treat them like they're better than you, actually. And the most respectful thing you can do is show up and treat them like, well, that's the other thing, is like, you don't want to treat someone like a stranger if you do know them as a subject. It's tough. It's tough. And the last thing I'm leaving is trying to convince people. Again, just modeling. This is something that I have to keep throwing out, like opening up the trunk and throwing out, because it finds itself in there, is that I do like to convince. I do like to turn people towards each other, towards new ideas. I like to persuade. I like to present my case and like have people get on board. Like I literally just enjoy that, period. But I have to remind myself that while there have been times where I have expressed like, I think we should do this because of this, and then people have been convinced by that, the best way to convince is by simply modeling what you want to see, allowing that person to take the information in, and they can do with that what they will. And if they are not convinced by that and they do not follow suit, then you got to deal with that, and you got to accept that, or you got to partition things away and move on. But sometimes the reason I want to convince someone is that I'm like, dude, I've been where you are, and I know like the pain or the like frustration of being in that position, and I found a really good workaround, or like I found a really good solution for that, and like, let me convince you that like this is the way that like can really help, like it's in a good spirit, but it's still motivated, it's like very like, I want you to do what I did because like I found something good out of that. And if I actually think about it, let me just show somebody the template by modeling of what's worked well, and then they can make up their own decisions. So like going back to the video I just posted about moving closer to my friends, if I want to convince other people to do that, I was like, let me not just talk about it, let me just do it. And then when I share what the experience has been like, maybe that'll convince some people. And that is what the comment section has proven to be. And I think I might have even shown people a model for this in my personal life, and I might have some people moving closer to me. Like, remember, and also when I told those guys to shut the fuck up at the concert in my kind, compassionate way, or I asked them if they would mind talking less or in more respectful periods, I was thinking about modeling in that. And I was thinking about like, how do I like, because if I had just silently modeled not talking, it would have not convinced those guys, right? So that was a case where I was like, I actually have to ask them if they can respect my interest on this. I couldn't just model it, but I was like, in the way that I ask, let me model the type of respect I'm looking to see, you know? So I need to remember that like every quarter or so, I got to remind myself that I cannot convince people, can only model and see what happens. Okay. And now we turn to the part of the episode where I get to hear you all step into the revelatorium room and go into how these themes have been showing up in your life. So one question I asked, and again, if you want to participate in this survey, the only ways to do that are by going to the highlights on the Revelatorium Instagram or onto the posts tab of the Revelatorium YouTube channel. That's where I'm posting them. Okay, I asked you guys about your relationship to the subject. And I did that by asking, have you ever spent time with someone famous at any level? How did you treat them and how did they treat you? Leah, who's 28 in Canada, said, a good friend of mine plays in a popular band, i.e. they do occasional world tours and play on mainstream radio but aren't mega famous. He is a normal person and we rarely talk about work. He treats people well but often forgets people even after meeting them multiple times, which I find to be disrespectful. I don't think it's due to a superiority complex, but more because he meets thousands of new people every year. Overall, being famous is not a big part of his identity. This was so intriguing to me because I've never thought about someone having a hard time remembering you because they just meet so many people, and how if someone meets very few new people, maybe that would help them remember new people they meet better because there's like a smaller inventory of that. And I want to think about that further, and I want to ask people who do have more trouble remembering if that's a lever as to why. Addie, who's 25, writing in from the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, said, I met Kofi Annan on my college campus the year that he passed away. A group of us students who I was privileged enough to be a part of were able to have a roundtable discussion with him. He was a very kind man, shook all of our hands, and made many very kind and diplomatic remarks. As a Ghanaian myself, I was honored to meet him. And that is a beautiful, beautiful representation of how someone can be a subject without letting fame denature them. Jade, who's 24 in Illinois, said, my friend was freaking out over someone at a rave and asked me to take a picture of them with him. I thought he looked familiar and just thought he was someone I knew from like a class or something. Was mostly confused the whole time trying to figure out where I knew him from. 5 minutes in, I literally watched a film he directed / starred in and started screaming. Not chill of me. We kept ending up by him multiple times that night and I avoided eye contact. So amazing though to be like, where do I know you from? Like, did we take a class together? And I genuinely think a lot of people that are subjects like have that experience where it's like you can tell that someone recognizes you, but they maybe don't understand who you are or who you are to them. Screaming is so funny because I wonder if he feels like he's worth being screamed over, because I'm like, I have worked to build my self-worth, but I don't know. I love it when my friends like scream when they see me because that feels like being known. But when if a stranger screamed when they met me, I'd be like, whoa, like, I promise it's not like that. Amelia, who's 24 in New York, said, last year I did a film fellowship where I am based in upstate New York, and one of the guest speakers was Guinevere Turner, who is the screenwriter of American Psycho and show writer of The L Word. I remember being really excited and approached her to get a picture, and she was down to take a couple, which was nice. And at the end of my fellowship, she came to our wrap party to congratulate us on our success, and I decided to approach her, and I said that I got around to watch this film that she starred in, as well as produced, called Go Fish, and then we started to ramble on about our favorite films for the 1990s, a true diva, icon, and legend. That sounds so life-affirming and wonderful. M, who's 28 in Hong Kong, said, yes, I've spent time with someone famous. They were a singer-songwriter and had more than, I said singer-songwriter, like I'm from Utah. Singer-songwriter, and had more than 10K Instagram followers. I treated them with a sort of reverence and admiration, which I don't think was reciprocated. They were not cocky or mean, but during dinner, the conversation was mainly focused on them, mainly because they were used to being interviewed or the subject of someone's interest. They were polite and respectful, but showed little interest in me and my life. And it's so telling that it's like, yeah, you identified them as like, they're a subject. And like being the subject of someone's interest on a wide scale, like can warp you to think that you are a subject, you know? But it's like in that experience, it's like, yeah, I just would never want my subjecthood to like warp me, but I think that it does, like inevitably, you know? Like I am used to talking about myself and I'm used to people listening, and I know that I'm like entertaining and amusing and compelling in those ways. So it's like, but that doesn't mean I don't think other people can be as well. And I've heard this before, like of, you know, a celebrity or someone famous being in the space and them just not like wanting to meet other people maybe as much as they want to be met. Chloe, who's 24, writing in from a train from New York to New Jersey at 11 p.m. after seeing a musical, said, famous on a niche sport level. Yes, I have many famous friends in that sense, and it's funny within the community because why are people losing their mind over this quirky dweeb I knew in high school? And that is why like you'll hear so often that like celebrities love having people from their past around them that don't treat them like a subject, you know, because like they knew them pre-subject. So it's like, I'm not going to treat you like you're better than me because we literally were fucking around in high school together and I know that you're not. The girl with the fancy ass couch who's 28 in Seattle said, my high school best friend of 12 years is jazz famous. Since we've been close since before he was famous, we just interact very normally. The level of respect, care, and our constant irresistible pull towards intellectual conversations are still there. I just call him famous every now and then he corrects me. No, I'm jazz famous. So I don't expect this was the kind of interaction you were getting at. And in fact, it's the exact kind of interaction I'm getting at because this is someone that understands the type of subject that he is. Like he's a subject of jazz fans, but that doesn't mean he should be a subject of like everyone's interest, you know? Lady J, who's 26, writing in from the worst food coma of my adult life, said, when I was about 13 or 14 and at the peak of my Gleek years, Gleek mentioned for the second time on this episode, I saw Harry Shum Jr., Mike Chang, walk into a hotel in San Francisco. My family encouraged me to walk in and say hello and ask for a picture. So literally quaking in my boots, I approached him. Harry was super snappy with me and angrily explained that he was with his family and that following him into a hotel was extremely inappropriate. So valid, King. Of course, I don't blame him for the reaction now. I can only imagine how exhausting dealing with freshly sexually awakened teenagers during the golden age of Glee must have been. But when I tell you that interaction kept me up at night for months, I do not kid. Sheesh, dude, boy crazy teens like me were getting your bills paid. Have some patience for us. And yeah, it's so complicated, that role between like maybe you were stepping out a lot as a fan and he didn't want to be stepped at much like a subject, you know? And I remember when I was in high school, I saw Nathan Adrian at a sushi place in my hometown, who's this Olympic swimmer. I had such a crush on him. He was my phone lock screen that entire summer. And we passed him. And then I felt so much regret for not saying hi that we went into I was a fan. I was acting like a fan. And we walked into the sushi place he was at, and I asked, just like, tried to be polite. And it was just like, I'm such a huge fan. Like, could I get a photo? And he was with his friends, and his friends were just like laughing because they clearly didn't see him as a subject, but then they were experiencing him being the subject and me being the fan. And he did give me the photo, but I'm like, in my current, that was before I was a subject, right? I was making YouTube videos at that point, but I didn't feel like a subject. I hadn't really reached a point where I felt like a public figure. And now I have reached that point, and I have had interactions like that where a fan has come up to me, and I've been with friends who don't view me as a subject. And then they're seeing me in that role that they've never seen me in before. And they're like, oh, like such a bizarre dynamic. But yeah, I think possibly he could have done that more compassionately, like more respectfully. Like you can tell someone to shut the fuck up at a concert respectfully. You can tell someone that like that's not the way you want to be interacted with respectfully. So a lot to be gleaned, and loved reading all of these. Okay, now I want to do taking and leaving. So I asked, what are you leaving in March? And Chloroplast, who's 20 in the waiting room outside my next uni lecture, said she's leaving not prioritizing my physical/mental health over other things. E.g., I tell myself I can't go for a jog until I finish my essay, or finishing making a gift for someone's birthday. And I find myself resisting my own needs a lot. I talked about that episode 27, like depriving myself of sleep for other things. And I'll hold in my pee to like finish something. I was actually just like hungry because this recording session has gone on for way longer than I thought it would, because 28 episodes later, I still don't know how long it takes me to record one of these, and I can't tell. Like, I knew this was a chunky episode, but I just wasn't sure how chunky. Anyway, I got hungry and I was like, you know what? I can take a pause, go make myself a snack, and then come back. And that's what I did. So I feel like you just gotta jailbreak your brain, basically. Maiden Yana, who's writing in from my desk, finally free from my work computer for the next 3 months, happy unemployment, and is 24, said, what are you leaving in March? Finally, my job. I left with a scandal by giving my coworkers a zine about the messed up things my company did to me. HR got involved. I was in the basement for 3 hours. It was epic. And I just had to include this one as a follow-up because I was so impressed with the idea to let folks know the working conditions. Being in the basement for 3 hours. Wow. You really did that shit. Okay. Mia, who's 23 in Australia, said she is leaving the mouse infestation in my room and the guilt associated with having to get rid of them to live peacefully myself. I know. It's like I want to coexist with all little beings. Mo, who's 23, writing in from the place that pays my bills, said they're leaving, making myself feel guilty for sleeping in. Like if my body needs rest, I shouldn't feel bad for letting it get that. And I feel like it can be hard to give yourself permission for that. I remember in college, though, I took a yoga class that was at like 7 a.m. or like 7:55 a.m. And she always said, like, if you need to skip class because your body just can't get up, like, let that happen. If that's the well-being that you need over yoga, then take it. And I was always very encouraged by that. And I think I want to like instill more of that in my life, because I personally, like, if I go to bed super, super late, I cannot. Like my body, like even if I'm like, okay, I want to wake up at 7:30, my body will wake me up at 8:30, sleep through like an hour worth of alarms. Like I can't really cheat myself on sleep. Abigail, who's 24, writing in from Nassau, Bahamas. She is leaving feeling purposeless since I was unemployed and dropped out of my master's program because I hated it. LMFAO, I have a part-time job at a ceramic studio now and working on getting a full-time job in policymaking. Not that having a job gives you purpose, but being mentally ill without a job gives me way too much time to ruminate, and having a salary allows me to be independent, which is a big priority for me right now. Jade, who's 24, writing in from Illinois, said they're leaving, needing refinement in the product of everything I make. Sometimes what's important is just the fact that I made something. So true. And the refinement comes with time. Like not everything needs to be fully decked out. M, who's 28 in Hong Kong, is leaving the last of winter where I am and having best friend exclusivity with my best friend. And that I think gets back to killing the couple in your head, like allowing other people like to hold that level of intimacy with you and not claiming one person for that. Chloe is leaving hesitancy to share parts of myself with the people who love me. Lady J, who's writing in from the worst food coma of my adult life and is 26, is leaving Hinge. Fuck that app. And I can say I did that 2 years ago. I have not missed it. Kata, who's 22, writing in from my new bed in Santiago, Chile, is leaving the paralyzing need to bring something to the table. I've been dealing with many a health issue the past 3 months, and it makes me a little boring, like my personality is more muted and my interests are a little asleep, which has been making me very insecure and like I shouldn't be around people. I feel guilty, like I couldn't just feed off of other people's energy, but I deserve to be held. It's okay to just be. I don't need to be entertaining 24/7. I think social media has made me see myself this way. People are so used to being entertained all the time. I'm scared I'll become skippable if I'm not putting on a show that's good enough. I don't know, if I start thinking about it too much, I go insane, but I want to leave the need to constantly entertain people in March. And that is so fortifying after my last episode 27 talking about being amusing and like being an entertainer. And it's true that like sometimes I have been sick and like have been having this annoying ass like sinus infection basically, and I just have more brain fog and it's just everything's more labored, and I just find myself like I can't spend as much time being entertaining, or like I'm just less willing. And it is odd because I feel like drained, like I'm less of myself, but it's also like, yeah, let me actually break that standard that like I am going to be solely providing the good time here. Like we're both involved in making this a good time. Now for taking, the girl with the fancy ass couch is taking acceptance that I do not have to integrate friend groups. So true. And oftentimes I find that people in friend groups don't want to be integrated. Sometimes they want to stay in that secure structure. So yeah, that's why I visit friend groups and then my own friendships. I just form my groups as they come. Chloe is taking the trust that people in my life love me. I know that's right. M is taking a spirit for micro adventures, even if my adventures are just walks around my neighborhood. And I like the term micro adventure. Addie, who's 25, is taking my first ever crush and subsequent sweet 1 month old relationship. And that's so tender. Mo is taking sitting outside in the sun. The sun is so life-giving and nourishing. I feel renewed after sitting outside all weekend. And yeah, the afternoon light in my apartment this time of year is so good. Like it just hits me on the couch and all I can do is just like stretch into it. Just delightful. Hannah, who's 27, writing in from New Hampshire, is taking the walking/rail trail near my apartment I just found that takes me from the dense urban core into rural nature. I walk it with my boyfriend, meet up with friends. It connects us to each other. Along the way, I witness the beauty of 11-year-olds popping wheelies on their bikes, kids rollerblading with their families, and even the mysterious Sasquatch cutout someone painted deep in the woods. I'm also taking being a slam poetry regular, gathering with other writers, performing, workshopping, and listening to writers who inspire me. It's the highlight of my week. That sounds so whole and pleasurable. And I love a trail. I love the traffic on a trail. Like it is just like a bunch of people feeling pleasant, you know? And it's like just a parade of pleasant people that you're just passing by. Kento, who's writing in from my bed with no blankets because it's finally spring, and is 22, is taking friend cookbooks. A friend of mine approached me this month to fill out a page of a friend cookbook she was in the process of creating. A friend cookbook entails a compilation of your friend's most valued recipes. Even if a friend of yours doesn't cook, it can be their favorite meal they grew up eating or their go-to at a local mom and pop restaurant. As someone who finds the universality of food so fascinating, I found it shocking that I rarely know what my friends grew up eating or typically cook for themselves, if at all. I was so inspired by my friend's request that I aim to make my own friend cookbook in the month of April. And I just want to share this to spread the knowledge that you can do this. Okay, next question I'm going to read is, what kind of templates do you use in your life? What do you rely on them to help you with? And I was purposely vague in this question because I wanted to see what templates meant to you guys. Like, if I said template, if that would conjure the type of template I was thinking about with like Partyful or, creative inspiration. And Sweet Treat Connoisseur, who is 27, writing in from my cozy bed, population 2. My boyfriend is also here. Kind of was hitting on the pickup line template thing I was thinking about. I absolutely use the compliment template for introductions to women/gender diverse folks when first meeting. Very straightforward. It sounds like, hi, nice to meet you. I love your shoes /tattoos/earrings/fill in the blank. This helps me focus in on the person to make sure I remember them, LOL. And I enjoy finding something about them I think is truly cool or interesting, which instantly opens a door to more conversation. Doesn't work if the compliment is disingenuous though, but usually I don't have too much trouble finding the thing. And this gets back to charisma too, is like you're waiting to find something genuine that you actually have a compliment about because that reads, like that translates. Mads, who's 26 in Chicago, said, the main template that comes to mind is a skincare routine and kitchen organization. I'm very peculiar about how a dishwasher should be organized. Depending on the layout of a kitchen, certain things have a spot that just makes sense. For example, it makes sense to store food in cabinets by the fridge and dishes in cabinets by the sink, and not the other way around. I really appreciated this example because I wish I had more of a template when I moved into my kitchen, actually, because I'm like still new to sort of like setting up a kitchen. I don't really know what the best way to do it is. And of course, I can rely on my intuition and like find personal ways that make sense to me to set it up. But it's like, I was just like, I want to know like what the best practice template for this section of my kitchen is. And since setting my kitchen up, I haven't reorganized it and like moved things around from different cabinets. So it works like well enough, but it probably could work better. She also said, I use space as a template for when I'm doing specific tasks to make sure I stick to what I intend to work on. I have a specific chair I use for studying/language learning purposes. I have a certain side of the couch I like to sit on when I'm reading a book versus watching a TV show. I work hybrid 2 days a week at home, and I recreated my desk layout and monitor setup so it's exactly like in the office. I can't just go to a coffee shop to do work because my most efficient way of working involves using 2 monitors and my laptop screen. Well, I could buy portable laptop screens, but I'm trying to avoid unnecessary spending in this economy. And that sounds also, I've never seen someone bring portable monitors to a coffee shop, but I definitely used to have this like ethic when I was heavy into like studying in college. And I do tend to find that this chair is a template of like, I like to read in this chair. I like to talk in this chair when people come over, and I like to record this podcast in this chair. So it kind of has those special purposes. So I do tend to use space as templates too. Grace, who's 28 at gate B7 at the Philadelphia airport, said, I only like training for half marathons with a whole plan laid out for me. I don't like planning it out myself. Working out in general for me, I don't like to think or plan it out by myself. And it also could be like, it's nice to have templates built by like people that have a lot of experience, because then you don't have to question it. But maybe at some point you'll realize the training plan works better if you make it your own, But it can save you mental faculty to not plan it out yourself. Maiden Yana said, I use templates for messages on LinkedIn so that I don't have to overthink or make up my confidence from zero every time. And definitely, I do a lot of templating for like things that I send at work or just like something that you're going to have to send repeatedly. Totally. But I'll also say that like you can feel it as the recipient of an email. Like when I get emails from sponsors for YouTube, I can tell like it's a template almost every single time. Like I'm not expecting people to like, I used to work in a job where like I was crafting emails and that shit takes time and I get it. But it's like, if you can personalize it a little extra, if you're really wanting the person to read it and respond, if it's like a cold email, unfortunately and fortunately, personalizing the template helps. Hannah, who's 27 in New Hampshire, said, I start all my free writes with the same sentence. This is my free write, take it or leave it. It helps open up the page. And that's exactly how I feel about my little Revelatorium intro spiel. Abigail, who's 24 in the Bahamas, said, in terms of templates I use consistently, I would say my monthly budget template that I downloaded from Excel that I've used for going on 3 years, and CBT worksheets, LMAO. And I feel like I definitely have like templates. I used to have a lot of templates that I had my previous therapist help me with for like conflict of like when I'm having an issue with someone, how to like bring it up. And I think a few episodes ago, I spoke about the template of like, I have a bone to pick with you as like a way to open up a light conversation about conflict. But as I've gotten more adept with like conflict, I've been able to break free of those templates and like make them my own and make it more personal in my own voice. And like, that is exactly what I think I'm trying to get at with my little template theory of like them just being training wheels. Jade, who's 24 in Illinois, said, when to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what to eat for breakfast, how I should act in class or the library or on the bus. And meals are a template, right? It's like you can eat 7 times a day. You can eat 2 times a day. You can eat like you get to choose that, you know, bodily autonomy. And we do have a template for breakfast foods, you know, but it's like first thing I ate today was a scallion pancake, but then also was a little tofu rice bowl because it was 1 p.m. when I started my day today. The girl with the fancy ass couch said, I use templates in terms of stereotypes, particularly regarding what region of the US people grew up in. It's fun to joke about being a Midwesterner to some extent. I find myself asking people I just met where they grew up right away and trying to connect with them on stereotypes about that area. Sometimes it lands and sometimes people look at me like, why does that matter? That's where it can be a problem. I'm using it as a crutch for a connection and maybe need a new intro. So again, going back to pickup lines, charisma, interest, etc. She also said that a dating app profile can be a template. Totally. It's a very strict template. Even though they give you however many prompts, that shit is crusted. Lady J said, I feel like every week I'm attempting a new routine or organizational method that I found on YouTube or Pinterest and nothing ever sticks. I guess my template is looking to the internet to get my life together and maybe very slowly finding small changes that work for me. And yeah, I've definitely borrowed a bunch of templates from YouTubers and then like saw what worked. And Lucky Virgo, who's writing in from the big blue chair I thrifted from Facebook Marketplace and is 24, said, I love Excel sheets for some reason. I use a trip planning Excel sheet template I created with tabs for itinerary, activities, food, drink, lodging, notes. I also have a job tracker, meal plan, budget, and volunteer hours sheets. And let's just say my camping Excel sheet, that's a template that works. Like no need. Well, it's also a template I did make myself. Like it's a template that, and that's also another version of a template. It's like not a template that you download, but a template that you create for yourself off of what you know works well. So it's already kind of fitted to my needs. Okay, and we'll end with, I did have a question for you guys to open up the taboo and ask, do you feel like you're mean at all? In what ways? I was like, what kind of mean are you? And Grace said, I at times feel like I have gremlin energy. I can be really unintentionally mean, like making a joke or observation that's a little bit of an insult. Super common one, you know? Been there. Nick, who's 27, awaiting a flight to my new home to go apartment hunting. That's so exciting. Said, I can at times be standoffish if being friendly is not the main purpose of an interaction. A new person started at work and she confided in a coworker who I'm a bit closer with that this new person thought I hated them. She dispelled their concerns by stating, he hates everyone. You're not special. I'm not one to engage in the weekend water cooler catch up or ask about someone's new baby unprompted in the work environment. My mental labor is already being co-opted enough in this environment. I do not feel the need to have my emotional labor be co-opted as well. And, you know, I feel of two minds on this because I am also someone who I'm not trying to build my social life at work. And so I'm not looking to get my social needs met at work. And so I'm not like looking to go above and beyond, basically, you know? But I also don't want to be rude to my fellow coworker. Like I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's hard to toe that line when it feels like everyone else has sort of like different motivations for being in the office. So it's like you don't want to be disrespectful, but you also, it's like, yeah, how much of yourself are you willing to give at work, basically? Abigail said, yeah, I have always been quite a straight shooter in conversation, especially with people I don't know. Having a slightly hardened exterior is definitely a defense mechanism of mine, but I'm not sure if I even want to change that. I never make rude or embarrassing comments about people, including if I don't like them, since I find that to be unfair, and my moral compass is strong, but sometimes I get labeled as having a hard mouth, Bahamian slang for being tough and verbally abrasive. Totally. That's an amazing phrase. It is what it is, but honestly, I would never want to be mean, so I always try to be kind in what I'm saying, even if I can be too blunt for some people's tastes. It just brings me delight to hear what people really think, so I like being stricter, even if it's not nice conversation. And I'm definitely outspoken. I'm definitely a loudmouth, but I don't know about hard. But I like people who tell it like it is. But that is one of those things where it's like, that might be a type of thing where it's like, you have to find your hard mouth compatible people, you know, people that appreciate that. Chloe said, growing up, I was classified as mean by a few people. I think it is just my blunt honesty. I tried being nicer to one specific person and she told me I was being weird, so it felt like I couldn't win. I ended up finding my people later in life, college, but also if I didn't like someone or respect them, they knew. I'm very honest in how much I will open myself up to you given the vibe I receive. And this is where I really find myself is like, especially if I find someone to be like an asshole or have like what I deem to be bad politics, truly, like, then I don't feel the need to like be nice to them. You know, I'm not going to go out of my way to be unkind, but I'm not going to be like, hey, how's it going? You know, if they say hi, I'll say hi back, but like, I'm not going to like be sugary. And I wouldn't ever be like, I can't believe they think I'm mean for doing that. Like, I get it. But also it's like, agreed. A lot of these people are saying it's like kind of not something you're willing to change about yourself. Or some people are like, I wish I could change this, but I don't know. I've been that way for so long, I can't imagine a different way. The girl with the fancy-ass couch said, unfortunately, I fail to contain my reactions that are rooted in insecurity or pain every once in a while, but for the most part, I don't feel mean. Maybe when I gossip sometimes. And yeah, like, if people think that gossip is mean, that's mean incompatible for me. Because I'm like, we need to be able to gossip. That's so important, but like, let's not gossip on snark pages, let's gossip on couches. Lady J said something about entering the flirting zone, especially over dating apps, really brings out a bitchy mode that I'm growing not fond of. Whenever it comes out of me, it feels really inauthentic, and I'd like to work on mitigating it. I've noticed a mean-spirited culture in dating app messaging quite a bit. Would it hurt us to be genuinely complimentary and softer to each other? Let's quit it with this flirt to roast ratio thing. I'm not about it. Yeah. I don't like antagonism just to be antagonistic. So it's like, you see what I'm saying? It's like actually kind of hard to be mean compatible. There's like so many different like preferences for that. So it's important. And what's also important is me going to sleep because it's literally past 1 a.m. I started recording this episode in the 8 o'clock hour. So this is, I'm having a rude awakening of just how much 1 month can reveal. And I'm realizing that a lot of people that record podcasts, it's like they go till they hit the hour and then they're done. And that works well if you have like a weekly podcast. But monthly, I really do feel like the time doesn't determine when these episodes are over. It's like I have my bullet points and it's hard for me to cut them. But I also feel like each one of them could be its own essay, but I'm not there yet. People have been following me on Substack and I'm like, what are you guys doing? I don't even post on there. I'm not a subject. You know what I'm saying? But then I'm like, damn, should I be a subject on there? I'm like, oh no. But I wonder if I wrote an essay on every one of these points, like, that would have to take way longer than sitting down one night and doing this. So anyway, thank you for tuning into this 2-parter. If you enjoyed it and got all this way, please share it with somebody that you know that you think might enjoy one point of this. Thank you to those of you that have left a rating on Spotify, have subscribed on YouTube, that leave comments. It's super, super fun to be a subject on Revelatorium, actually. And I did have someone I met out and about say they knew me from the podcast, and I was like, oh. I feel like I'm used to people knowing me from like TikTok or YouTube. So it's like, I love it when someone's like a Revelatorium listener. I'm like, that's where it's at. Okay. I'll see you all next time. Thanks so much for listening, and Kat, they're out.